Recently, I ordered some more model trains off of eBay, and now they have just arrived and they are in this box. So let me get straight into this. First up, we have this Exact Rail Santa Fe boxcar. I've never owned any Exact Rail rolling stock, but I've heard these are really nice, and I'm really happy to have one to try out. Next up, we have an Athearn BNSF GP60M. This one looks like it could potentially be new in the box. Here we have another BNSF Athearn GP60M. This one's in the war bonnet paint scheme. And at the bottom of the box, we have a third and final BNSF GP60M. This one is slightly different. It's got BNSF lettering under the number, but it is also in the war bonnet scheme. Before I go piece by piece into every single component of this lot, let me explain a little bit of the backstory behind this lot. So I've been working recently on trying to build a local sort of based around the LA area, which uses a whole bunch of BNSF GP60M's, so I've been on the hunt for more. I bought my first one for about $50 DCC ready, which to me seemed like a great deal in person. And then recently, a friend sent me this lot with these 3 units and the boxcar for only $170, and that included taxes, shipping, all that fun stuff. And it wasn't even that far away. Supposedly, these models came out of an estate. The seller didn't really have all that much information on them, aside from the fact that one of these units claimed to be DCC. So when we go through these, we'll have to see if that's true, and I'm expecting most of these models to need some work. First up, here's the Exact Rail boxcar. Just by moving the box around, I think we have a weight loose inside the car. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it with my microphone, but I'll just rock this car back and forth a couple of times. It also appears we have a rogue wheel in the box, which is kind of bizarre, but looking around it, the box looks to be in pretty good shape. It's a little bit beat up, but I've seen much worse. Supposedly this is a 60-foot waffle side boxcar. I've always found these things quite interesting, so it's kind of nice to have one of these. On the other side, it's just kind of a basic box. And then on the back, we've just got some information about Exact Rail. Again, I've never owned anything from Exact Rail, so I'm really interested to see what this car is all about. Now I'll take this thing out of the box. It opens up just like any other box I am used to. And it looks like there is a little bit of damage that this car has sustained. It looks like the wheels have all popped out of this one truck. That shouldn't be too difficult to fix, but underneath it looks really nice. There's a whole bunch of little brake detail and all that underneath the car. The stirrups here look to be in very nice shape. It's got some high quality KD couplers on each end, and it doesn't look like very many, if any of these details are broken. There might be a little bit of stuff that's out of whack, but it looks really nice. There's a small defect on the roof of the car, but other than that, I'm really happy with this. It'll be a very fun piece of rolling stock for me to work on and try out. And I don't know if I can show it on camera, but I think these are separately applied details on the side, which I don't think I have many boxcars with separately applied details like this. So yeah, this boxcar will need just a little bit of work, but it's nothing too extreme for me. This should be a really simple project. So let me get this boxed up and we'll move on to one of the 60M's. Here is the first of the 3 GP60M's. This one looks to possibly be in used condition. I don't know how well you can see it, but it looks like there's been some sort of modification to this whole front handrail setup. But we got to get this thing out of the box and just see what it is all about. Well, this one does claim to have DCC. That is good to know. It does have some interesting markings underneath, and it is, I think, worth noting that this model has been converted to KDs. I am noticing a few other really neat little details around this model, so I'm going to take a look, and I may even go grab my other GP60M just to compare really quick. So I pulled out the first GP60M that I've owned. This one I bought a couple of years back for $50 DCC ready, which was still an amazing deal, but other than a little bit of work I've done, it is completely stock. I installed a decoder and a new circuit board just because the old one would not allow for any lighting to work. This seems to be a common problem on these Athearn circuit boards and whatnot, so I threw it out and put in a new board. The only other thing I've done is completely replace the lighting. I installed custom LEDs, and that's the first time I've ever done it. I'm really happy with the result, and you may see that later on depending on how things go. But looking around this model, some important things to note. There is very little detail on this front pilot right here. You have this really tiny plow, and that is about it. The ditch lights are just fake pieces. There's no lighting or anything going to them. There's nothing too extraordinary to say about the side. I don't think there's anything I noticed different on the 60M we have right back here. And then on the back of the model, it's the same case with the pilot. There is very limited detail and really nothing to see here whatsoever. Moving on to this GP60M though, there are a lot of little things I've noticed. On the side of the model and on the roof, it's essentially the exact same. All the work's been done on the front pilot and on the rear pilot of the unit. Up front, there has been a lot of detail added. Someone added some air hoses through the holes in the plow right here. There's been an uncoupling lever added, and we've had this little piece added right here. I don't know what it does, but it looks really nice. And the really big thing that I was not expecting is the previous owner installed actual ditch lights. It's kind of difficult to see, but we have wires running from underneath each ditch light into the locomotive, which means this unit has ditch lighting. I don't think I own another engine with actual working ditch lights, so if this unit's ditch lights work, that'll be an amazing feature. And now going around to the back of the unit, it's more of the same story. No ditch lights here, but we've got some air hoses applied, and we've got the same uncoupling lever and this little same piece as well. The only thing of note that I noticed is that this little handrail right here is broken. It is the same case on the other side. That should be pretty simple to fix with some canopy glue. And then I was also reading the little note that came with this model, and supposedly this reversing light does not work. Which, if this thing has working ditch lights, I probably won't be running it in reverse very much. And one final little thing of note before we move on to the next GP60M, these motor mounts look to be pretty worn out. They don't feel all that rubbery, and I don't know how well they're going to prevent vibrations and whatnot from inside the locomotive. I do hopefully want to replace all of the motors in these GP60Ms with some Northwest Shortline ones in the future, but for now, hopefully these will hold up and they will allow the model to run without any major issues. Now it's time to go into the other Warbonnet GP60M. This one I don't think has the exact same modifications, but we will see. Well, this is not what I was expecting to see after the last one. Again, this is really no big issue, but it looks like the original Athearn board has popped straight out of place. I should be able to pop it back in just like so. That should do the trick. Everything in here does look to be in fairly decent shape. You can see from the commutator that it has a little bit of runtime on the thing. We do also have a broken wire going to this rear truck, so I may fix that really quickly. But putting the shell back on the unit, there's really nothing special. I think this is a completely stock unit. We do not have any upgraded ditch lights here. Going around to the back, there's also no upgraded work on the pilot. Again, it's not really anything to complain about, but this is exactly how my other GP60M came. I can't remember if I just mentioned it or not, but it also doesn't look like there has been DCC installed. This is your basic dummy plug, so there means there's no decoder in here. I may have a spare one I can throw into it, but if not, we'll just test this thing out as a DC model and leave the DCC running to the other 60M we just looked at and the pre-existing GP60M that I own. The reason the show was able to just come off like that is because there's no coupler boxes here. I don't know why there aren't any coupler boxes. I can for sure install some, but that's just kinda odd considering the condition of the other unit. And now onto the final GP60M in the H2 paint scheme. This one I suspect is new in box, partially because this is a newer style of Athearn box, and because we got the foam handrails and what appears to be all the paperwork in here. But let's get this thing out of the box and take a look at it. And just as I was expecting, this GP60M also appears to be brand new. I'll grab this thing and show you around. All the details look to be completely stock. We still have the original McHenry couplers installed on the thing. Same on the back of the unit. Flipping this thing over, the dead giveaway that this is a newer unit is that we've got screws holding the motor in place instead of the old rubber motor mounts. Underneath, these wheels also look very shiny. It looks like this still may be some factory lubrication down there. Up on top, everything looks pretty nice. This horn does look noticeably smaller than on all the other units, and it appears to be bent a little bit, so I may have to fix that. but there's nothing too extraordinary about this one. While we have this one here, I do want to remove the couplers and just take a look underneath the hood of this locomotive, just to make sure there's no decoder or anything of interest inside of here. Unlike the GP60M we looked at before this one, everything in here looks to be in near perfect condition. The lubrication on the trucks look really good, the commutator looks very clean from here, and nothing seems to be out of place or broken inside of this locomotive. There is a slight difference in the circuit boards of these things. On this one, unlike the other one, you have two methods of plugging a decoder in. You have a little 8-pin plug right here, and then you also have this little guy right here, which is the same 9-pin dummy plug we had on the last unit. Although it appears that maybe that purple wire is broken on that board, I really don't like these Athearn boards, so if I am going to convert this unit to DCC, I'm going to completely replace the board. And since I gave the prior two units the exact same treatment, I want to open up this unit and just see what's going on in here, especially since this one has had a DCC decoder installed, and I'm kind of curious as to whether or not it has sound. I really doubt that this is a sound equipped model, but it doesn't hurt to check. Now that we have this unit apart, I'm even more confused than I was before. There's a lot of odd stuff going on in here. We've got a DH123 decoder, which is just your basic generic Digitrax decoder. You've got this ginormous thing in here, which I believe is a speaker. It's got 8 ohms on it, which makes sense for a speaker. Then we've got this wacky little board right here. I have no clue what this controls, but it looks like it goes directly to the speaker. I don't know what it's wired up into. We've also got this really weird capacitor in here. I don't know what this connects to either. We still have the stock Athearn decoder board in here, which, again, very bizarre. It does look like the mounts for the motor are cracking, so I will definitely need to replace those in the near future. But this unit has left me with more questions than answers, so I'm really curious to see how this thing will run on DCC. I'll have to wait a couple of days for that, though, because it is currently a Thursday and I don't go to the club I'm a part of until Saturday. Hopefully we can test this thing out and it'll run along with my other GP60M, but we will just have to see. It also appears to me that the lighting in here is stock. I would like to change out the lighting on all of these in the future now that I have some experience with it, but it'll just take me some time to get to. Before we go test these things out, I'm going to do some work both on camera and off camera to get all of these up into shape. I'm going to use some canopy glue to fix the motor mounts on this guy. While that's drying, I'm going to work on the coupler boxes of the other two GP60M's just to make sure they are at the correct height and have new KDs installed and all that fun stuff. We'll fix the wire on the other war bonnet 60M. Then while we're still waiting for this canopy glue to dry, I think I'll go in and try and fix that exact rail box car. It is now a little while later and I have returned because I was very rudely interrupted by a hailstorm, which is a rarity for Northern California. It wasn't any hail large enough to do damage, but it for sure was way too loud for me to continue filming, so I took a break and actually did some work on the more fiddly stuff with some of these locomotives and this one piece of rolling stock. While I was waiting for the storm to pass, on this GP60M, I repaired the handrails that had broken off. We had the two on the front here and this one little piece here. And then once that was all said and done, I was thinking about installing couplers onto this thing. However, I held off on that because, as you saw in the last clip, I just put some canopy glue on those motor mounts. I think that's going to need a lot more time to dry, so I will do this in a couple of days, right before I go take this thing to the club, once the canopy glue is fully dried. Once I was done working on this thing, I moved on to the one piece of rolling stock, this waffle side box car. I went around it, I reattached all the little details and things that needed some attention. I found that on one side of the car, I think, yeah, it's this side, we have some of the little grab irons that are missing, and on the other side, we have a stirrup that's missing on the car, and I believe also a few little grab irons missing here. Again, it's not the end of the world. This car was kind of thrown in here, and it's still a really nice car. I got all the coupler heights sorted out, I fixed the one truck, and I added the correct weight to this car. So everything here should be completely good to go. I just might want to let this thing dry a little bit. So with this out of the way, that means all we have left to do is install the new couplers on the newer Athearn GP60M, and we also need to install the couplers and fix the wire on the other war bonnet scheme GP60M. I'm really not a huge fan of the way this wiring looks, but it's a lot better than what was there originally, and again, in the future, I do intend to go in, throw out all the electronics, potentially even the motors, and completely rewire these locomotives, so it's just gotta work for now. I'm gonna replace all of this eventually. You may be able to tell, but with the new boxes, the coupler heights are off considerably on this locomotive. This is a very common issue with these Athearn engines, and I'll just need to tinker around with it off camera. So don't worry, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to leave it like this, but I'm going to do a lot of work to this and make sure I get that coupler height perfect, because I'm a little bit crazy when it comes to making sure my coupler heights are absolutely perfect. Once again, the coupler heights on this unit are not perfect, and I do promise that before I run these on any layout other than my own, I'm going to make sure they're absolutely perfect. I may need to order some of the couplers where the shank is down here and the coupler head is up here. I can't remember the exact style or what it's called or whatnot, but I can for sure buy some and order some, and that seems to do the trick on a lot of these old Athearn units. For now, I don't have any, and regular Cadies will just have to do the job, and since almost all of my other rolling stock is perfect in terms of its coupler heights, I should not really have any issues with these two specific units. After all that work, it is finally time to test out both of these DCC-ready BNSF GP60Ms. First up, I'll start with the H2 one. I'll get this guy set up like so. I've got pretty high hopes that this thing should run just fine. It looks to be a newer style Athearn model than the other two, and it also looks to be completely new in box. So let's give this thing some power and see what happens. And it seems to run perfectly with a front headlight. I'll bring it to a stop here, and we will put the thing in reverse. And we got a rear headlight as well, that's a good sign. And this one seems to run great. I almost don't want to replace the motor in this thing, but if I'm going to be upgrading all four of these GP60Ms in the future, this motor will probably need to go. Who knows, I could probably save it for some other project though. And next we got the war bonnet unit to test out. Once again, I'll get this thing set up on the track. And then now that it's all set up, I'll give the thing some power and I'll just see what happens. This thing is for sure noisier than the other one. It sounds like we may have a wire grinding on something in the drivetrain. I wasn't the happiest with the wiring, as I pointed out when I was rewiring the rear truck, so eventually I do want to rip everything out, put in a new decoder, redo everything. So for now, it's going to be just fine. I also do think I potentially heard a click, like there could be a cracked gear. I'll put the thing in reverse, and we'll see if we have a reversing headlight. Yeah, that click is a lot more pronounced in reverse. But good, we do have a reversing light. So this one is for sure going to need a lot more work than the newer Athearn unit. We're probably going to need to replace all four wheels. It's going to need a new motor and a lot of rewiring. So this one will be a project. It runs for now, but some point down the line, I want to make this thing absolutely perfect. I do really hope that when we go to test the DCC one in just a couple of seconds for you and a couple of days for me, we will not have the same cracked gear issue, and hopefully that one will actually run and we can run it with my other GP60M. If not, I'll just run my single GP60M and GP40X because why not? We can test out the new boxcar that way too. It is now a couple of days later. The last thing you saw was me testing out these two units, the H2 and the War Bonnet DC units out, and I just got home from testing out the DCC War Bonnet unit, and I've got some very good news on that front. I'll show you the video clips in just a second, but everything it claimed to be true is true. The thing obviously has a DCC decoder, as we saw, and it does run. These ditch lights do turn on. I do not believe they flash, and they're pretty dim. We've got this headlight working. It does make sound, but the sound is not the greatest quality, which I can't complain that much. It's a essentially $50 DCC and sound locomotive, and the backlight also doesn't work. So how about I show you the initial test run with this guy right here, and then I'll show you just a couple of clips of this one running with my pre-existing GP60M. So that's just about it for this unboxing of these three GP60M's as well as that boxcar. I do think it is worth noting that recently, just off camera, I went in and I actually did correct all the coupler heights. I got some of the correct KD27 couplers that you can see right here. They are the underset shanks, and that seemed to fix the coupler height on most of these things. I did have to make use of some shims and whatnot, but now all the coupler heights are up to par, and really all that's left is to work on the motors and electronics of these things. And hopefully in the future, these projects can all become great DCC locomotives. So I want to thank you all so much for sticking around and watching. If you do have any suggestions on what I should do with these locomotives outside of converting them to DCC, please do let me know.